Deep in the heart of rural Mississippi, a small girl named Oprah was born into a world of profound hardship. The year was 1954, and her family had very little money. Her surroundings were simple, often quiet, and sometimes lonely. Living on her grandmother's farm, she didn't have the toys or comforts that many children take for granted. Instead, she found her early joy in nature and the animals around her. Life on the farm was defined by work and survival. Oprah's grandmother was strict, but provided a foundation of discipline and faith. Because they could not afford new clothes, the young girl often wore dresses made from potato sacks. Other children sometimes laughed at her appearance, but these early challenges began to build a thick skin. She learned that what she wore mattered far less than who she was. Even as a child, she possessed a voice that demanded attention. At the local church, people would gather to hear the young girl speak with a wisdom far beyond her years. She was confident and clear, reciting passages with an emotional depth that moved the congregation. This small wooden church became her first stage, a place where she felt seen and heard despite the poverty that waited for her outside. Her grandmother worked hard to make ends meet, which is a common phrase used to describe having just enough money to pay for basic needs. Oprah watched this struggle daily. There were no luxuries, only the necessities of food and shelter. This constant financial pressure created a sense of urgency in Oprah. She realized early on that education and hard work would be her only way out of this difficult life. At the age of 6, her life changed when she moved to Milwaukee to live with her mother. This transition was not easy. Her mother worked long hours as a maid, leaving Oprah alone in a crowded urban environment. The warmth of the farm was replaced by the cold realities of city life. During these years, she faced traumatic experiences that would have broken many people, yet she remained internally resilient. Before we continue, I want to know about you. Where are you listening to this story from? Please write it in the comments below. And if you enjoy learning English through true stories like this, hit subscribe to join our community. We're glad to have you with us as we explore the life of one of the most influential women in modern history. Despite her circumstances, she was a diamond in the rough. This idiom describes someone who has great potential but lacks polish or expensive surroundings. Oprah spent her time at the public library, reading every book she could find. Books were her windows to the world. They taught her that life could be different and that a person's beginning does not have to determine their ending. She was preparing for something greater. In school, she was an excellent student who stood out for her intelligence. She won several academic awards and was invited to speak at various events. However, her home life remained unstable and difficult. She struggled with feelings of isolation and a lack of support. Even so, she kept her focus on her studies, knowing that her intellect was her most powerful tool for changing her destiny in a world that ignored her. Her teenage years were a period of intense searching. She was a young woman trying to find her place in a society that often judged her by the color of her skin and the size of her bank account. She felt a deep hunger for knowledge and a desire to be someone important. She didn't want to just survive, she wanted to thrive. This ambition was a quiet fire burning inside her heart. A turning point came when she was sent to live with her father, Vernon, in Nashville. Vernon was a man of high expectations. He insisted on academic excellence and required her to read a book and write a report every week. While this seemed strict at first, it provided the structure she desperately needed. For the first time in her life, Oprah had a stable environment where her growth was the priority. This move was a blessing in disguise, meaning something that seems bad or difficult at first, but results in something good. The discipline her father enforced helped her excel in high school. She became an honors student and joined the speech team. She found that her ability to communicate was a unique talent. When she spoke, people didn't just listen. They felt a connection to her words and her presence. High school was a place where she could finally shine. She was elected school president and became popular among her peers. However, she still carried the memories of her early years. Those memories kept her humble and grounded. She never forgot the feeling of wearing potato sacks, and this memory pushed her to work harder than anyone else. She was determined to prove that she belonged in any room she entered. In 1971, she entered a beauty pageant called Miss Fire Prevention. She was the only black contestant, and she felt the weight of the moment. Instead of focusing on her appearance, she used her intelligence and her voice to win over the judges. She won the title, proving that she could compete and succeed in spaces where she was not expected. This victory gave her a new sense of confidence in her abilities. Opportunities began to open for her. Because of her success in the pageant and her speaking skills, she was offered a full scholarship to Tennessee State University. This was a massive achievement for a young woman from her background. It was the result of years of focusing on her education and refusing to let her past define her. She was now on a path toward a professional career in communication. Against all odds, Oprah had transformed her life. This phrase means succeeding even when it seems impossible. From the dusty roads of Mississippi to the halls of a university, she had navigated a path of extreme difficulty. She had survived poverty and trauma, and now she was ready to begin her professional journey. This was just the start of a career that would eventually reach and inspire millions of people around the globe. Living in Nashville, Oprah started to look for her first real job. A local radio station, WVOL, heard her voice and was immediately impressed by her natural tone. They offered her a part-time job reading the news on air while she was still in college. It was a fresh start, a chance to prove that her voice had value in the professional world. She was nervous but determined to succeed in this role. Working at the radio station taught her the importance of timing and clarity. She had to learn how to deliver information quickly and accurately. At first, she tried to sound like a traditional news reporter, but she soon realized that her strength was her authenticity. People liked her because she sounded like a real person. She began to develop a loyal following of listeners who enjoyed her unique and warm broadcasting style. Even with this early success, she felt the pressure to fit into a specific mold. The media industry at the time had very specific ideas about how women should look and speak. Oprah often felt like she was trying to be someone else to please her bosses. However, her father's influence kept her focused. He reminded her that her integrity was more important than fame. She continued to balance her studies and her growing career. Finding a young black woman in the newsroom in the 1970s was like finding a needle in a haystack. This idiom means something is very rare or difficult to find. She was a pioneer in many ways, navigating a workspace where very few people looked like her. She faced subtle prejudice and high expectations, but she refused to be intimidated. Every day, she showed up with a smile and a professional attitude that commanded respect. Her talent was undeniable, and people began to notice her gift of gab. This phrase describes a natural ability to speak fluently and persuasively. It wasn't just that she could talk, it was that she could connect. When she told a story, people felt the emotions behind it. This ability to bridge the gap between a broadcaster and an audience was rare. She was slowly realizing that her voice was her greatest asset. As she neared graduation, she received an offer from a television station in Nashville. Moving from radio to TV was a big step. She was hired as the station's first black female news anchor. It was a historic moment for the city and for Oprah. She was breaking barriers and opening doors for others who would follow her. The transition was exciting, but it also brought a new set of challenges and public scrutiny. Being on camera required a different kind of presence. She had to worry about her clothes, her hair, and her facial expressions. At the time, she felt intense pressure to look a certain way. There were moments when she felt insecure, but she always returned to the power of her voice. She understood that if she could speak from the heart, the audience would look past the surface and connect with her message. She decided to take the bull by the horns, which means to deal with a difficult situation directly and with courage. Instead of hiding her personality, she brought more of it to the news desk. She often struggled to stay objective when reporting on sad or tragic stories. She would sometimes cry on air which was considered unprofessional at the time. This emotional honesty, however, is exactly what made her stand out from other anchors. Despite her success in Nashville, Oprah knew she wanted more. She felt a calling to a larger stage where she could have a bigger impact. When a job opportunity appeared in Baltimore, Maryland, she didn't hesitate. She left the comfort of her home and moved to a new city where nobody knew her name. It was a leap of faith, a moment of choosing growth over comfort in her professional life. Baltimore proved to be a difficult environment. She was hired as a co-anchor for the evening news, but her style didn't fit the traditional format. Her bosses wanted her to be more serious and less emotional. They even tried to change her physical appearance, including a disastrous attempt to style her hair that left her nearly bald. It was a low point in her career that tested her resolve and her confidence. She felt like she was failing for the first time in her adult life. The newsroom was a competitive and often cold place. Oprah found it hard to report on the suffering of others without feeling their pain personally. Her empathy was seen as a weakness by the station managers. They eventually moved her from the prestigious news desk to a morning talk show, thinking it was a demotion for her. At the morning show, she had to learn the ropes, which means learning how to do a new job or activity. Little did her bosses know, this demotions would be the best thing to ever happen to her. On the talk show, she could finally be herself. She could interview people, ask personal questions, and show her true emotions. The format allowed her to use her natural curiosity and her love for human stories. Getting her foot in the door of the talk show world changed everything. She realized that she didn't want to just report the news. She wanted to talk about life. She loved hearing people's stories and helping them share their experiences. The ratings for the morning show began to rise quickly. People in Baltimore were waking up early just to see what Oprah would say next. She was finally finding her true purpose. Her time in Baltimore lasted several years, and it was a period of intense personal growth. She learned how to handle criticism and how to stand up for herself in a tough industry. She also developed a deep bond with the people who watched her show. They saw her as a friend rather than a distant television personality. This relationship with the audience would become the foundation of her future empire and global influence. By the early 1980s, Oprah was ready for her next big move. She had mastered the talk show format in Baltimore and was looking for a bigger challenge. A station in Chicago was looking for a host for a struggling morning show called Am Chicago. It was a risky move, as Chicago was a much larger market with a lot of competition. But Oprah felt a strong pull toward the city of wind. Arriving in Chicago, Oprah felt like a fish out of water. This idiom describes someone who feels uncomfortable because they are in an unfamiliar situation. Chicago was big, loud, and intimidating. The show she was taking over was at the bottom of the ratings. Many people doubted that a woman from Baltimore could succeed in such a competitive environment. However, Oprah arrived with a plan to simply be herself and see what happened. On her very first day at AM Chicago, she was energetic and warm. She ignored the traditional rules of talk shows and spoke directly to her audience as if they were in her living room. Within just 1 month, the show's ratings went from last place to first place. She had outperformed the most popular hosts in the city. Her success was immediate and undeniable, proving that her brand of honesty resonated everywhere. What made Oprah different was her ability to listen. While other hosts focused on being clever or funny, Oprah focused on being present. She asked the questions that ordinary people wanted to ask. She wasn't afraid to show vulnerability, often sharing her own struggles with weight, relationships, and her past. This level of transparency was revolutionary in daytime television. It built a bridge of trust between her and millions of viewers. The show was soon renamed The Oprah Winfrey Show. It expanded from 30 minutes to a full hour and began to be broadcast across the entire country. Suddenly, she wasn't just a local star, she was a national phenomenon. Her face was on every screen, and her name was on everyone's lips. She had successfully redefined what it meant to be a talk show host, moving the focus from entertainment to connection. She was known to wear her heart on her sleeve, which means to show your emotions openly rather than hiding them. If a guest told a sad story, she cried. If a guest was funny, she laughed until she couldn't breathe. This authenticity was her secret weapon. In an era of polished and perfect television stars, Oprah was real. She was human. And because she was human, people felt safe sharing their deepest secrets with her. In 1985, her career took an unexpected turn into the world of film. She was cast in Steven Spielberg's movie, The Color Purple. She played the character of Sophia, a strong and resilient woman. Her performance was so powerful that she received an Academy Award nomination. This success in Hollywood showed the world that Oprah was a woman of many talents. She could not only talk, she could truly act and command the screen. Success brought wealth, but it also brought a sense of responsibility. She decided to take control of her own career by forming her own production company, Harpo Productions. By owning her show, she became one of the few women in history to have complete creative and financial control over her work. This move was a masterclass in business. She was no longer just an employee. She was the boss of her own destiny. As the show grew in popularity, Oprah began to tackle difficult and controversial topics. She hosted episodes about racism, domestic violence, and health. She provided a platform for people who were often ignored by mainstream media. Her show became a safe space for difficult conversations. She believed that by talking about these issues, people could begin to heal. She was using her platform to educate as much as to entertain. She was turning the tide in the television industry. This phrase means to reverse the direction of a situation. Before Oprah, talk shows were often seen as trashy or unimportant. She elevated the genre by focusing on self-improvement and emotional health. She invited experts, psychologists, and authors to share their wisdom with her audience. She wanted her viewers to walk away from the show with a better understanding of themselves and the world. One of her most famous segments was the Oprah's Book Club. She started it in 1996 as a way to share her love for reading. Any book she selected became an instant bestseller. She single-handedly revived the publishing industry and encouraged millions of people to start reading again. This power to influence culture was unprecedented. She proved that television could be used as a tool for intellectual and personal growth on a massive scale. Her influence extended beyond books. She also focused on health and wellness. By sharing her own journey with health, she inspired others to take care of their bodies and minds. She wasn't lecturing her audience. She was walking the path with them. This sense of shared experience created a community of followers who felt they were growing alongside her. Her show became a daily ritual for millions of families across America. Despite the fame, she stayed connected to her roots. She often spoke about the lessons she learned from her grandmother and father. She understood that her success was built on a foundation of hard work and resilience. She remained approachable and kind, often surprising her audience with generous gifts. These moments of generosity were not just for show, they were a reflection of her belief in the power of giving and kindness. Being constantly in the spotlight can be exhausting. This idiom describes being the center of public attention. Oprah faced intense scrutiny regarding her weight and her personal life. The media often criticized her, but she handled it with grace. She learned to separate her public persona from her private self. She surrounded herself with a small group of trusted friends who kept her grounded and supported her through the highs and lows. By the late 90s, Oprah had become a global icon. Her show was broadcast in over 100 countries. People from different cultures and backgrounds found something in her story that spoke to them. She had transcended race, class, and nationality. She was no longer just a talk show host. She was a global symbol of hope and empowerment. Her voice was reaching ears in corners of the world she had never dreamed of visiting. The message of her show was always clear. You are responsible for your own life. She encouraged people to take ownership of their choices and to strive for excellence. She believed that everyone has a unique purpose and that the goal of life is to find it. This philosophy resonated deeply during a time of great social change. Oprah was not just hosting a show, she was leading a movement of self-discovery. As the new millennium began, Oprah's influence reached its peak. She was recognized as one of the most powerful women in the world. But power, for her, was never about control. It was about the ability to make a positive impact. She used her platform to launch the careers of many other experts, such as Dr. Phil and Dr. Oz, helping them reach their own audiences. She was a kingmaker in the media world. For Oprah, the sky is the limit, which means there is no boundary to what can be achieved. She continued to expand her business empire, launching the Oprah magazine. It became one of the most successful magazine launches in history. Her goal was to provide a written version of her show's philosophy, encouraging women to live their best lives. Every issue was filled with inspiration, advice, and stories of extraordinary, ordinary people. One of her most significant contributions was her work in philanthropy. She established Oprah's Angel Network, which raised millions of dollars for charitable causes around the world. Whether it was building homes after a hurricane or providing scholarships for students, she was always looking for ways to help. She believed that her wealth was a tool to be used for the greater good, and she inspired her audience to give as well. Her political influence became evident in 2008 when she supported Barack Obama's presidential campaign. Her endorsement was seen as a major factor in his success. It was a rare moment where she used her public platform to weigh in on a political race. This showed just how much the public trusted her judgment. People valued her opinion because she had spent decades building a reputation for honesty and integrity in their living rooms. In 2011, after 25 years on the air, Oprah decided to end her daily talk show. It was the end of an era in television. The final episodes were a celebration of the impact she had made on the world. Thousands of people gathered to say goodbye and to thank her for being a part of their lives. She walked away from the show at the height of its success, ready for a new chapter. She wanted to level the playing field for others. This idiom means to make a situation fair for everyone, giving everyone the same opportunities. One of her proudest achievements was opening the Oprah Winfrey Leadership Academy for girls in South Africa. She invested her own money to build a world-class school for girls from disadvantaged backgrounds. She believed that by educating girls, she could change the future of an entire community and nation. The transition from her daily show to her own network, OWN, Oprah Winfrey Network, was difficult. At first, the network struggled to find an audience. For the first time in years, Oprah faced public failure. The media was quick to criticize her, suggesting that her time had passed. But Oprah didn't give up. She worked behind the scenes to fix the problems, showing the same resilience she had as a young girl in Mississippi. She returned to what she did best, long-form interviews. She launched Oprah's Next Chapter, where she sat down with famous figures and ordinary people for deep, meaningful conversations. These interviews helped the network find its voice. She proved that her ability to connect with people was not tied to a specific time slot or format. Her audience followed her because they valued the depth and wisdom she brought to every conversation. Oprah also returned to her love for acting. She appeared in films like The Butler and Selma, and she produced several successful television series. She used her production company to tell stories that were often overlooked, focusing on the Black experience in America. She became a powerful voice in Hollywood, advocating for more diversity and better representation, both in front of and behind the camera. Her influence continued to grow. Her shows always provided food for thought. This phrase refers to something that makes you think deeply or carefully. She didn't just provide easy answers, she asked the hard questions. She encouraged her viewers to look at their own lives and their own biases. By doing so, she helped create a more empathetic and understanding society. She believed that education was a lifelong process that happened both inside and outside of a classroom. Throughout all her success, Oprah maintained a deep connection to her spirituality. She often spoke about the power of gratitude and intention. She started every day by writing down 5 things she was grateful for. This practice kept her grounded and focused on the positive even during difficult times. She encouraged her followers to do the same, believing that a grateful heart is a magnet for more blessings in life. She became a mentor to many, offering advice on leadership and personal growth. She spoke at university commencements, sharing the lessons she had learned over her long career. Her message was always one of empowerment. You are the master of your own soul. She wanted everyone to realize that they had the power to change their circumstances, no matter where they started. Her life was the ultimate proof of this message. Oprah's influence also touched the world of technology. She was an early adopter of social media, using it to connect directly with her fans. She understood that the way people consumed media was changing, and she adapted her business to meet those changes. She continued to be a pioneer, always looking for new ways to share stories and connect with people in a digital age while maintaining a human touch. She wanted to leave a mark on the world that went beyond television. This idiom means to do something significant that will be remembered. Whether through her school in South Africa, her donations to historical museums, or her many acts of private kindness, she has certainly achieved that. Her legacy is one of compassion, education, and the belief that every individual has a voice that deserves to be heard and respected. Looking back on her journey, it is clear that Oprah's greatest strength was her ability to transform pain into purpose. She took the hardships of her childhood and used them to fuel her desire to help others. She didn't let her past hold her back. She used it as a foundation to build a life of meaning. Her story is a testament to the power of the human spirit to overcome and thrive. Today, Oprah Winfrey is more than a name. She is a global brand. But at her core, she remains that girl from Mississippi who loved to read. She spends much of her time now focused on projects that bring her joy and allow her to continue her mission of service. She is proof that a career can be built on values like empathy and truth, rather than just competition and profit. Her life philosophy is centered on the idea of intention. She believes that every action should be preceded by a clear purpose. Before she starts any project, she asks, "What is my intention here?" This focus has helped her avoid many of the traps of fame and stay true to her mission. It is a lesson in mindfulness that she shares with everyone she meets, encouraging them to live purposefully. She has always felt a strong need to give back to the community. This phrase means to provide help or money to others as a way of saying thanks for your own success. Oprah has donated hundreds of millions of dollars to various causes, especially in education and healthcare. She doesn't just write checks, she gets involved and ensures that her contributions are making a real difference in people's lives. One of her most important messages is the importance of self-care. She has been very open about her struggles with stress and burnout. She advocates for taking time to rest, meditate, and reconnect with oneself. In a world that is always moving and demanding more, her message of stillness and self-reflection is more important than ever. She reminds us that we cannot pour from an empty cup. We must care for ourselves first. Her impact on the Black community has been especially profound. She showed that a Black woman could reach the highest levels of success while staying true to her identity. She has used her platform to highlight Black history and culture, ensuring that these stories are part of the global conversation. She has been a source of pride and inspiration for generations of people who saw themselves reflected in her success. Oprah's story also teaches us about the power of forgiveness. She has spoken many times about forgiving those who hurt her in the past. She believes that forgiveness is not for the other person, but for yourself. To set yourself free from the weight of anger and resentment. This emotional intelligence is what allowed her to move forward and build a life filled with joy and peace, despite her early traumas. She encourages everyone to pay it forward. This idiom means to respond to a person's kindness to oneself by being kind to someone else. Oprah believes that small acts of kindness can create a ripple effect that changes the world. She often highlights stories of ordinary people doing extraordinary things for others. She wants to show that you don't need to be a billionaire to make a difference in someone else's life. As she gets older, she speaks more about the beauty of aging. She sees each year as a victory and a chance to gain more wisdom. She rejects the idea that a person's value decreases with age. Instead, she celebrates the experience and perspective that come with a long life. She is a model for how to age with grace, vitality, and a continued passion for learning and growing every day. Her friendship with people like Maya Angelou was a key part of her life. Angelou was her mentor and mother-sister friend. From her, Oprah learned that when you know better, you do better. This simple but powerful idea has guided her decisions for decades. It reminds us that we are all on a journey of learning, and that making mistakes is okay as long as we learn from them and improve. Oprah's journey is a reminder that success is not a straight line. She had many moments of doubt and failure. She faced rejection and criticism, but she never let those moments define her. She viewed every challenge as an opportunity to learn something new about herself. Her persistence and her belief in her own worth are what eventually led her to the top of the media world. She always tells people to keep their eyes on the prize. This idiom means to stay focused on your main goal, despite any distractions or difficulties. For Oprah, the prize was never just money, it was the ability to live a life of meaning and impact. By staying focused on her mission to serve and inspire, she was able to navigate the complex world of fame without losing her way. In recent years, she has focused on mental health advocacy. She collaborated with Prince Harry on a documentary series about the importance of talking openly about mental struggles. She wants to remove the stigma that surrounds mental health and encourage people to seek help. This work is a natural extension of her talk show, which always prioritized emotional well-being and the importance of sharing our stories to find healing. Her legacy is also visible in the many people she has helped along the way. From the students at her academy to the authors whose lives she changed, her impact is immeasurable. She has shown that true power lies in how many people you lift up, not how many people you stand above. Her life is a masterclass in leadership, empathy, and the power of a single voice to change the world. As we conclude her story, think about your own path. What is your unique voice? What is your purpose? Oprah's life teaches us that no matter where you come from, you have the potential to achieve greatness. It requires hard work, a commitment to education, and most importantly, the courage to be yourself. Your story is still being written, and you have the power to make it a great one. The story of Oprah Winfrey is a story of hope. It is a story that proves that resilience and kindness can win in the end. Thank you for listening to this journey of a girl from Mississippi who changed the world with a microphone and a heart full of empathy. May her life serve as an inspiration to you as you continue your own journey, finding your voice and sharing it with the world.